You're watching Nigeria Decides. INEC chairman has said only the act of God will stop Saturday's election. Is INEC truly ready, as he is saying?
Absolutely, and we're joined by our team of analysts, Bosun Ario, the co-founder, Change for Africa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We also have Ewenla Mustafa, the Secretary, Liberation Movement, Lagos. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Is INEC truly ready? 100% reconfiguration of cards, essential materials dispatched, security on the spot, as we heard today at the briefing. In your opinion, is INEC truly ready to go?
Well, first off, I want to thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you.
I cannot exactly say that 100% I'm certain that INEC is 100% ready for the antecedent of what's happened before this before now. However, the commission is independent and they have everything they need at their disposal to conduct a fair, credible, transparent election. So if they are certain that they are ready and they have the support of all the agencies, the immigration, the civil service, the police, the army, the air force, the navy, so I am optimistic. And we all have to be, that indeed, that they will conduct
Your
the best
president
election.
is optimistic. He gave a very fine speech this morning asking everyone to go out and, exercise their franchise, that the security agencies are on the spot. The IG has said, we're ready to go. So why is it that is the postponement the only reason that's making you doubt their preparedness?
Now, the postponement was done amateurly. You cannot exactly say that the commission did not know that they would not be able to conduct the election until 3 a.m. that morning of the election.
Your confidence is completely bashed because of that.
So for that occurrence alone, they have sort of tampered with the electorate's appetite to come out and vote. A lot of people traveled, far and near to different states and their localities to exercise their franchise, and only to get there and wake up the next morning and be told that election had been postponed. So you know how we think as humans. Okay. So it did go to a lot of Nigerians as to how much can we really trust what comes out of INEC.
Now let's bring you in here, Ewenla. We're talking about INEC's preparedness, and even though the election was postponed last Saturday, the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has been on air, has been on television every day of this week from Monday, and the last briefing held today on national television. In fact, it was a joint press briefing with the IGP of Police, Mohammed Adamu. Isn't that enough to show commitment?
Well, true. For me, I honestly do think that yes, last week there was a postponement, but I know for free that with the level of input the commission has put in this week, it shows for me that they are very ready for tomorrow's election. Yes, even they have also said that only an act of God can stop tomorrow's election, and even the President Muhammadu Buhari himself is also very positive that the elections will hold. As of Thursday, sensitive materials has been distributed to all the 774 local governments and all the feelers from all angles, international, even when that briefing was aired as at on Wednesday, a lot of international observers were in that meeting, and of course they gave them assurances that tomorrow's election will hold. So for me, yes, we were all bitter about last week's postponement, but for me, I think tomorrow's election is going to hold and INEC is fully ready.
Okay, now we also know that the chairman said a lot about how things will go. He also mentioned where the collation would take place. That during the last briefing, he made all of those details plain to Nigerians. Now, against the backdrop of voter apathy, we know that some pronouncements, even what the president said about ballot box snatchers, could breed voter apathy. What do you think is going on in the mind of an average Nigerian voter who is among the 72,775,502 eligible voters who's thinking there's a lot of tension in the air? Is there tension?
Yes, well, if you say that there's a lot of tension, well, I won't agree less, but yes, when the president made that statement of what they were going to do to ballot box snatchers, yeah, he gave room for a lot of fear in the minds of not even those that have the intention to go snatch boxes, but a average voter who wants to come out to go vote and is found in the midst of that shenanigan. But then, yes, I can say that people got that statement sometimes. Somehow people got it. Some interpreted it wrongly. But then, of course, I don't think anybody who is sane will have. I mean, everything the president have said for me is just a way to show that we should not encourage snatching ballot boxes, and it's just to maybe scare off those who have the intention. But of course, if it happens, it just goes to show that their penalty is going to be a very strict one.
And
yes,
that's really death.
Yeah, well, I don't totally agree that they should be killed, because for me that's to the extreme.
Sure.
But I feel they should be punished.
Okay,
Yeah.
INEC chairman and the IGP of police have also come out to say that whoever snatches ballot boxes tomorrow will face the full weight of the law. So we hope that that's what carries through at the end of the day.
Of course, it's for me. I welcome such idea, because as a nation, for me, we should have moved away from snatching ballot boxes. It happens every other time, and I think we shouldn't be found doing that in this time and age as a country.
All right, we do have this video we'd like you to watch, and then when we come back, we will continue with the conversation.
As I said earlier, yesterday I reported 95% completion of the configuration. I am pleased to report that we have now achieved 100% completion of the configuration. We are good to go on this score. Similarly, I briefed you yesterday that having moved the sensitive materials to the 37 states and the Federal Capital Territory, the forward deployment to the 774 local government areas nationwide will commence today, Wednesday, 20th February 2019, and be concluded tomorrow, Thursday, 21st February 2019. Already 10 states, Adamawa, Anambra, Benue, Ekiti, Jigawa, Katsina, Ogun, Oshun, Oyo, and Taraba have commenced the movement of materials to the local governments today. Other states will do so and conclude tomorrow.
That's just one of those press briefing of the INEC chairman updating us on the preparedness of INEC. Coming to today's case, there was this issue that was raised, I said yesterday, one of the journalists asked about the welfare, and that's ad hoc staff, the welfare of ad hoc staff, but particularly the NYSC members who will be participating in the election. And we had the INEC chairman, sound really sorry about the situation and promised that all will be done to ensure that the NYSC core members have some sense of belonging when they move to these remote places. Do you hold that affirmation by INEC chairman true as regards the preparation?
Well, I do, and I do because, sometimes when certain event happens, there are other revelations that comes with it. The last postponement did reveal to Nigerians and even to the commission itself the sort of treatment the ad hoc staff gets. We also on the TV how they slept and how they were looked after, and it was really appalling. They are they're trying to lend a hand to the process and ensure that INEC has the workforce that it needs to carry out its constitutional duty. To see them in such state, I'm sure nobody would like it. So I do believe that the chairman, having seen those footage, he felt some sort of way that they need to do better, and I believe they will do better.
Now, there's a report on the internet that in Borno State, mattresses had been distributed to ad hoc staff, mainly core members, and over 60 million naira in allowances paid out to ad hoc staff, possibly to ensure that there's no apathy and that many of them return to continue the process. Now, is that enough for us to encourage these young Nigerians who are out there possibly in the cold? Many of them, I observed the elections. I was to observe elections last week when it was postponed. So they complained bitterly that in some places they were attacked in the night because they were left in a primary school without security. You know, all of these things happened. How do we then protect them such that each time INEC requests for ad hoc staff, people would willingly, you know, be part of the process? What else can we do as a country?
Yes, okay. Yeah, the truth of what happened last week was, yeah, but for me, it's just because social media for us reveals a lot of information for us these days.
True.
And that's why we were able to see the fallout of what happened last week.
Because it's been happening all these years.
It's been happening. I was once an ad hoc staff too, sometimes while I was serving, and we were not treated very good. And for me, I thought that from then till now, there should have been a lot of changes. For me, even if not for the postponement, we wouldn't have seen the fallout of what happened last week, where coppers came online to react that they were badly treated. Some were even robbed because there was no adequate security. As a country, like I said, I think that there are a lot of things we should put in place for things to work normally, even without any unforeseen thing like what happened last week happening. For coppers who are serving their fatherland, there should have been maximum provision for them to, for one, in terms of security, two, in terms of welfare, feeding, and probably where they will stay. A lot of coppers slept outside. A lot of coppers, I have even some of my staffs who volunteered to go work for INEC, and they slept on the road, on the streets all night last week. For me, we don't have to wait till a problem comes up before we provide a solution. You know the plans that you have for these guys. You know that you want to engage them in a sort of a voluntary work. You should have considered a lot of things. You should have put a lot of things in place for them to be able to function properly. Because for me, for any ad hoc staff who is not properly taken care of, you can't expect the best from that person when it starts the election processes tomorrow. Because of course, fatigue will set in. Somebody who didn't have a sound sleep, he won't be able to function properly whilst people are on the queue too.
No, would you now say maybe the postponement is a blessing in disguise?
It is, of course, a blessing because he brought out a lot of things that we wouldn't have known ordinarily. And for me, if INEC chairman is saying that they are back and better to give them proper welfare and maybe more security, then it's good. But I just hope that the ones that got robbed will still have the interest in coming to come out.
We hope so. We certainly hope so. I have this question. Just it's been ringing in my head before we came on. Now I just need to ask it. This movement restriction. What about voters who, for instance, have their polling centers a bit further from where they live and they need to take a taxi or a bus to that location? What happens with the restriction of movement? Because as it is, if you don't have some sort of pass, you are not allowed to be on the road. Let me take that question to you, please.
Well, clearly there will be no taxis or buses for them to.
Yeah, what happens?
To get
That's
on
my
tomorrow.
worry.
However, the Commission did provide this website pu.ng for voters to go on and impute the number on their PVCs, which will show them their polling units. But beyond that, like we all know, they had a joint session with the IGP of police today, and then he was asked the same question. So I'll probably just reiterate his response to the question. So he basically just said that the curfew is to stop movement so that people can get around easily. So if you have your PVC, you can make your way to your polling unit. If for any reason you're stopped, all you have to do is, show your PVC and tell them where you were going. And by and large, polling units are often close to the RAs, places of registrations for PVC holders. So clearly, you wouldn't have to go from VI to Idumota, for example, to get your polling unit. It would probably be somewhere, around your locality.
Yeah, some people would have relocated. It's been a while they did continuous voter registration. Right. Some had done it years before, right. And maybe they could be living in Surulere and they've moved to the island.
And this is essentially why that everybody is told to go back to where they register to vote. So that is to place you close to your polling units systemically. And then, certain people probably have to, even miss their ways and go around and circle before they actually find the exact polling. But people can move around, basically. for the purpose of
the election.
casting their votes.
Now, INEC chairman as well made mention of the fact that INEC would be speedy when it comes to announcement of election results, you know, that they would do everything possible. Essentially, someone asked him a question about the presidential election, and he said that they would do everything possible to announce the results early. Do you think that we would see an early announcement of the presidential results with all the campaigning, with all the electioneering that we've had, and you know, all that has played out between the parties during the campaigns?
Yes, well, I do hope so, but unlike other elections where announcement comes perhaps sometimes 2 days after election, yes, but we know that before the actual announcement comes most times, from information we gather from electoral officers within different polling units and all that, people normally have an idea of who has won this constituency, who has won this unit, who has won this unit. But then I hope that, because for me, why I think that the announcements won't come immediately, almost immediately, is because yes, INEC has prepared so much, and of course there is no how there won't be some sort of unforeseen circumstances tomorrow. Probably maybe from the card reader, because of course sometimes we know from last election we know how the card reader malfunctioned, even to the extent that even the president himself had some 1 or 2 snags while he was trying to vote. That's I think the former Jonathan. Yeah. So we should expect, as much as INEC is prepared, we should expect 1 or 2 snags here, because these things are machines, they can break down at any time, and even human errors too can happen. So those things at the long run, you know, goes into why sometimes there is delay in announcement every other time. But I hope that maybe this year INEC has a better plan of how they want to collate those results.
Yeah, if you think about the situation with Anambra, the places in Abia where their offices were burned, some would say the speed at which they responded to replace some of those burned card readers is an indication of how they would react in an emergency. For instance, if something untoward comes up or unexpected comes up, they might have some contingency plan. Do you see that as a possibility, that their emergency preparedness, using that as a yardstick, is strong enough?
See, I'm going to deviate a little bit and come back to this, if you permit me. Yeah. We need to understand that election usually, you know, takes, or at least the commission has 4 years to prepare for it, right? Yeah. However, that is never the case here in this part of the world. You would remember that last year's budget was passed in September. INEC was not able to mobilize the contractors up until late November, and maybe even some first week in December. And I'm saying this based on first-hand information that I know personally. And then given such arrangement and such setbacks, you cannot expect magic. Nigeria is a country of about 200 million people. We have 119,973 polling units in Nigeria, over 57,000 polling centers. So how do you then provide resources for all of these electorate to actually vote? It takes time and lots of money. That's why INEC budget is in excess of 180 billion naira. You know, so the delay in disbursing funds for contractors affected, you know, the readiness of INEC. We have to be honest, and we have to own up to this. I personally think INEC has done a terrific job. I do think that the Prof, Mahmoud Yakubu, he does not, I saw it on his face that he felt really, really bad to come out and tell Nigerians that he had to postpone it. I just sort of took offense to the timing as to when the announcement was made. But by and large, INEC has put in a lot of work to see that this election goes on timely and perhaps be the best election that we've had. And to credit to INEC, every election year in, year out, election year in and out has been better. And I expect that this year will be even a lot better. So when INEC's, the carriers were burnt in Oka, Anambra, yeah, they were able to, replace them. And then, like I said, I think on Wednesday, the INEC chairman said that they've been able to reconfigure all of the
100%
carrier machine 100%. So yes, they've been doing a terrific job, and I expect that if any incident comes up, with all the support they have across the institutions and MDAs and armed forces, they would be able to, deploy resources and get it fixed.
Now
timely.
let's look at logistics. We know that one of the reasons cited by INEC for the postponement of the election was logistics concern. Now, and that also has to do somewhat with the distribution of materials, as well as we know we have sensitive materials, and in leading up to last Saturday, many places it hadn't been delivered, and we know that so far a lot of places, according to the briefing that he's been giving all these days, have received their supplies. So can you give us a situation report? I want to bring that to you, Ewenla, because you are the Secretary, Liberation Movement, so you can give us an idea of what the distribution has been like in Lagos.
Well, just like the INEC chairman said on Wednesday, and that hopefully that by Thursday they have achieved, they've been able to deliver to 774 what's it called?
Local government in Nigeria.
Deliver all these sensitive materials to all those areas. So for me, yes, that's one part of the logistics taken care of. But logistics, when he postponed the election, my greatest worry was that logistics can be in different form. Mm-hmm. Distributing the sensitive materials is one logistic taken care of. There are other logistics that I didn't mention, because I know that, and one of the problems I foresee tomorrow is particularly with this card reader, because for me it was a big snag last election, particularly because there are some areas in the interior part of the country where there's no light. So I hope that they've made provisions for power supply to charge this, because without the card reader functioning properly tomorrow, we're going to have a lot of slow down.
If I remember correctly, when there was that fire in Jos, Plateau State, they said some of the materials that were destroyed was generating set that we used to power it. So some of these things, I think they made provisions for, but is it adequate? That's the question again.
Yes, but for me, it's just for me. I think we can only get to know the adequacy of their preparation after the elections.
But then materials, Lagos, I would like us to look at, because we need to know this is the our immediate environment. So, what is the situation at local government areas in Lagos? Are these materials stationed already?
Well, as at Thursday, the report reaching us is that materials have gotten to all the local governments in Lagos State, because we had a briefing with some other party members where we had our party meetings, and the information reaching us at that time was that it has been well delivered to all the electoral units where elections will go on. But we hope that sometimes what we hear on the news sometimes is not practically what happens behind the scene. So let's hope that, let's take INEC by their words, because sometimes what we hear in the news, we are not there. We only go by what we hear from the reports we get from INEC. And I myself and my Lagos State chairman were at the briefing, and we hope that it has been delivered truly. And I hope that by this time tomorrow, we'll start getting feelers from all angles, and we'll have a very smooth, free, and credible elections.
All right, let me ask you, as at yesterday, we understood that most of the preparation has been done. The Commission has promised that everything will be available. We've said that over and over again. It might be late in the day, but INEC chairman did respond to calls for his resignation, restating that he is the chairman. He's not going to change his position at this last minute. Well, by and large, looking forward, should our response always be resign when there is a little mistake?
Well, everybody is very much entitled to their opinions. And, as human, we react to scenarios and incidents differently. I can understand the plight of those that called for the chairman's resignation. But there's a Yoruba saying, if you permit me, that says that if you're cooking with local firewood, and for some reason one wood is not burning, you decide to take the wood out and bring in a fresh wood. It will take longer time for the fresh wood to actually catch fire and be productive. So it is redundant for anyone to call for such, given the timing and the sensitivity that surrounds electioneering. And I believe that's why many people did not take that such call
seriously. Okay, the situation, the campaign periods are over, so we will, hesitate with the names of party, calling them here. But there was a landmark judgment that is still in contention about the state up north that's supposed to be a part of the polls, that subsequent polls after the presidential and national assembly elections. There is still contention, but there seemed to be confirmation from INEC that that particular party will be featured in the ballot paper. What do you make of that? One is going to be out because there is no ruling. And do you see any ruling coming between now and, tomorrow, for instance, to change the course of things for these parties?
I believe you're speaking of Zamfara State.
Yes.
Well, INEC have always maintained the position that they will always respect court orders, that they are a law-abiding institution. A judgment came from a superior court, the appeal court, setting aside the judgment from the High Court, stating jurisdiction. And as a matter of fact, saying that the judgment was an abuse of judiciary, that it was not proper. So given such distinctive and clear court order, INEC is bound on that law to obey the court order and allow the candidates, even up to the gubernatorial election that's coming in March, to be filled in the positions and to be allowed to be voted for.
Okay, and that's why we see that they already listed on the ballot paper. Yeah, for Zamfara candidates on the ballot, INEC chairman already mentioned that they will be involved in the election. So what can you say regarding that? Because put Rivers on the other side, there's nothing coming for them.
Yeah, well, you see, like if we really want INEC to be truly independent, we need to let them do what they're expected of. For INEC to have ruled out a particular party and, reinstalled another one, it shows that, of course, they're trying to solve a bigger problem they see ahead. And of course, they have to respect court orders. Court orders are strictly orders that nobody has to break.
Absolutely.
So they have to respect the court order, which is more superior to them.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your thoughts. We've been speaking with Bosun Ario, the co-founder of Change for Africa, and Ewenla Mustafa, the Secretary, Liberation Movement, Lagos. Thank you so much. Your thoughts are well appreciated.
Thank you for coming.
And of course, this is Nigeria Decides. The conversation continues. We'll be talking about security deployed for Saturday's election and matters arising right here. We'll be right back.
Stay with us.